2 weeks ago I had that scooter accident, right? And I almost died. I just hit my head hard enough that it looked like I got hit by Muhammad Ali. One of my friends was like, bro, like you could have died. I just remember feeling, if I died right now, I'd be happy with how I lived my life. And so if I had one message for the world or for anyone, it's just live your life with no regrets.
Welcome to the Myself Wellness Podcast. I'm Charles Patti, the voice of Myself Wellness, along with my co-hosts Christina Thomas and Jamie Veneziale. 9 years ago, I began my journey to self-awareness and healing. Like many who have faced personal struggles, I felt lost and struggled to find lasting healing. It wasn't until I discovered alternative healing methods that I began to see a real change in my life. This show will help you unlock your true potential through healthy lifestyle practices and transformations. Join us as we explore personal stories, expert advice, and practical tips to help you step into your true potential and level up. Welcome to the Myself Wellness Podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Myself Wellness Podcast. Today we have Tanner Chidester on our show. He is an entrepreneur who has sold over 115 million over the last 6 years, right? In sales. That's amazing. You are a no-nonsense entrepreneur who gets the job done.
I tried to, yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah, welcome on our show.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. I'm super excited to be here and we'll delve in, yeah.
Let's start at the beginning of your journey getting into all of this. I had read that, you were working at Olive Garden at one point, yeah. and then you were into personal training, correct?
Yeah.
What made you choose to go into building this amazing organization or company that you've started?
The main pivotal moment was, I grew up, I was bullied, and then at 12 years old, I found sports. I took sports really seriously. I wanted to play in the NFL. After 10 years, that dream didn't work out. And to be honest, I had a conversation with a mentor. He's a friend of my dad and the family. And he was trying to get me to go back to church. And while we were having that discussion, he just said, hey, what's your goals? And now that football had descended, right? And so I said, I just want to make a ton of money because it's just the way I grew up. My dad was a teacher, 7 kids, just didn't have a lot. And he was like, well, there's way better ways to make a lot of money, man. And he kind of started me down that business path. So if anyone was to get the credit for it or any specific moment, it was probably that. There's other stuff that, helped propel me towards that and helped me be successful at it. But it was definitely that conversation because without him, I don't think I ever would have started one.
You started with helping personal trainers and people that were doing online coaching in that aspect. It started from that and kind of tell us what it morphed into.
Yeah. So I actually, before even that, I started just getting people in shape, right? Because I've been an athlete and all this stuff. So he said, hey, start in fitness. You're really good at this. I had been doing some professional modeling, some other stuff. And so I was like, all right. And once I had some success at that, I can get into any details you want. But once I had some success at that, I got an award at ClickFunnels for doing $1 million in a year, right? And because I got that award, all these trainers started, hey, dude, I saw it I saw you did that. Can you help me? Da-da-da. And at first I said no because I was really against, business coaches and consulting. It had a very bad taste in my mouth. But after I had 15 or so people, I'm 25 years old. I'm like, yeah, they're offering me 10 grand a piece. That's 150 G's. I was like, all right, I'll do it. And then that actually, we went from 1 to 10 million in a year. That was to this day, that was still the most explosive year in my life. And I think it was just everything at the right time. It was I was right on top. I was getting a lot of publicity and press. I had a lot of referrals. Ads were popping. Everything was good. And then after that, I had more people ask for my help outside of fitness. And that's how I built Elite CEOs. And then the year after that, we had done-for-you services that we integrated because we had a lot of clients that would say, hey, can you run my ads? Hey, can you get me closers? Hey, can you, set up my tech and whatnot? And so we actually built other divisions. One was called Elite Ads, was an ad agency. One was Elite Closers. We got sales reps and setters. And then we built Elite 360, which was technology. And then we went to 25 million. So starting at zero, and then within 4 years, we're doing 25 million a year. So it was pretty wild, and looking back on it now, it's pretty crazy, but in how it worked and how many hours I was working, it just methodically made sense. And so as you're successful, I think one thing to point out is just very common thing is people ask you how you're successful. And I just took that opportunity to continue to consult and like make money. And I just showed people exactly what I did. I was like, yeah, like here's my systems. Here's what I said. Here's the messages. That's all it basically was.
I know this is like kind of like switching right into a different kind of question, but like, what's your secret to success, man? What do you do in your life? Is it like, are you utilizing the laws of attraction, consistency, discipline? I mean, all the cliche things, but like, what's yours?
Yeah. Some of that may be true, but I don't think I get that deep. I think, I grew up in a family. My dad's a teacher. We had 7 kids. My mom stayed at home. So just a very rough background in the sense of you can have whatever you want, but you got to get it. It was like, you got to get a scholarship to college or you can't go. So I had that work ethic from my dad. I think the other part is because I was bullied. And when I saw success in sports, what happened is people made fun of me. And then all of a sudden girls were nice to me. I would get, accolades. People wanted to be my friend. And I was like, oh, that's nice. So it was a direct relationship with hard work because I started lifting weights in 3 months. People started complimenting me. And then it gave me confidence to excel in sports. Then I started excelling in school. Then I started excelling with girls. And so I think the biggest thing was just I work really hard. Obviously, I think that's just, standard. I think you have to work hard. But the other thing was I wasn't really afraid to fail. There was a book. I brought this up earlier today with some friends, but there's a book called Who Moved My Cheese? I don't know if you've read it. And it's about 3 mice. And long story short, you don't know, like, it's kind of weird. As the book's going on, you're kind of like, why is this talking about mice and all this other stuff? But long story short, these 3 mice, they get food every single day. And eventually the food stops coming. So 2 of the mice, they're arguing on what to do because they're going to die. And so 2 of the mice say, hey, let's stay because the food will probably come back. And the 3rd mouse says, hey guys, the food hasn't been here in a few months. If we don't leave, we're probably going to die. He said, well, what if you leave and something bad happens? They're like, well, we're going to die anyways. Long story short, one of the mice leaves and finds food and goes through a bunch of challenges. And then he eventually goes back and the mice aren't there. And they don't say why, but you can probably infer they're dead. And then the author comes in and says, that's how dumb humans are. And that really hit me growing up because I said, the point in the book was, you're so afraid to take a leap for something that may not work, but you hate the situation you're in and you have nothing to lose. So I think it was a mixture of those 3 things. I can't quite put my finger on it, but I definitely know even today, I have a very adverse behavior to people telling me I can't do something. And it's almost like I almost won't quit because I don't want to prove them right. So even when my business started, for the first 2 years, before I started making money, because people hear 0 to 4 years, 25 million, the part I left out was the first 2 years, I made 2,000. And so during the first 2 years, I almost quit 5 times. But every time I was about to quit, I'd call my mentor and then I kind of sit there and then I got to tell everyone they're right. And I got to admit I was wrong. And I have so much pride and ego or whatever you want to call it that I wouldn't. So I just think there's I think there's 3 things to be successful to break this down is characteristics, beliefs, and skills. I think I always had the characteristics and beliefs. Like I built those from a young age, but I didn't have the skills. So once I had the skills, that's why I was like 0 to 25, because a lot of people who are trying to be successful, they don't have all 3, but they have parts of it. And so they're having a little bit of success. But when you really start to blow up, I think it's a mix of characteristics, beliefs, and skills of a successful person. And characteristics and beliefs is kind of the normal stuff like discipline, hard work, all the kind of boring things. So I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but that's what I would guess if I had to suppose.
I want you to know, man, there was like a couple years ago, I think it was like around that time, I was burnt out in my car. I was never going to quit. It was never an option. But I heard you tell that story.
Oh, no way.
About how I was listening to you.
Wow.
And you were like, it's like, I kept on, I wanted to give up, but I just kept pushing forward and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It actually, I was just like, it was a God thing. It was like, I needed to hear this right now. I'm starting to get goosebumps.
Yeah, that's crazy. That gives me goosebumps. I got them too. What I think too is after a couple days off, that feeling goes away. Yeah. So if you ever need a break and you're feeling that burnout, that's why some people take a day off, take a weekend off, whatever. But that feeling eventually goes away. And then it's like, what are you going to do? You're just not going to do anything the rest of your life.
Yeah.
I have a no quit attitude. And the other day you know, it kind of makes me smile to think about, but I had a friend, like I fell off a scooter, long story short, and like I could have died, right? And someone said to me, they go, dude, like you realize you could have died, right? I kind of was like, thinking, and I thought, huh, that's interesting. Like I don't have any regrets if I had died. Like if I died right now, I don't have any regrets because I feel I've been living my life to the max degree. And I think that ultimately is what success is like people talk about the intangibles and yeah, like having money, etc. But when you look back on your life and you're dead, you're going to die and everyone you know is already dead or mostly dead. So no one even knows what you've accomplished except you. All that I think is going to really matter is if you can look yourself in the mirror and know that you did your best. And the reason I believe that is when I was playing football and I was trying to go to Division I played with some first round draft picks and guys were way more talented than me, just way more talented. I don't think they worked as hard as me, but they're more talented. And when football ended because of injuries and I couldn't go to the pros, I was depressed about it. But then when I looked at my body of work and all that I'd put in, I was like, there's not one other thing I could have done. Like, not just saying that, actually, I went to every summer training camp. I went to every rehab session. I did double the reps on it. I was crazy. And I think a lot of people instead, like you take a guy, I remember I had a friend, he was going to go 10th pick in the draft, but he had a weed problem and he went second round in the draft. He lost $10 million. And I said, if I looked at him and he died, he would know, no matter how well he's doing, even though he's in the NFL, that he didn't do his best. And I think that's where regret stems from. So just for anyone who's listening.
Another thing that you just touched on, and I think this is really important for people to always like remember, is that you talked about the leap of faith. And I really feel that everything great starts with a leap of faith. A lot of people don't know this, but like, well, they know this part where like, listen, man, I went through 20 years worth of substance abuse and alcohol problems. My life was a train wreck, and psychedelic medicines ended up getting me sober and saving my life.
Wow.
But the thing is that I had quit a 6-year heroin addiction from a DMT experience and like all kinds of crazy stuff.
Is heroin, I've heard, is the absolute most addictive. Is
heroin and fentanyl. Fentanyl was even worse than heroin.
Fentanyl is
because once I started getting into fentanyl, when you do heroin, it lasts 12 hours before you get sick from not taking it. Fentanyl lasts like 4.
12 and 4.
So it's like when you're doing fentanyl, it's like
does that happen off the first time or is it like a couple?
No, after about 2 or 3 days of doing it, you're hooked.
Jeez.
But the thing is that I had got my life together enough to hold down a regular job and stuff. And like I had worked for my family's PR company, but when Christina and I got together, I started working we met when I was working at the gym. And it was like, after I was like, all right, I'm going to stop living the old life the way that I was. And I'm actually going to be responsible and just get something to hold myself down. And then after we got together and she was pregnant with our son, I was like, okay, it's time for me to go back and work for the PR company because I have to make real money.
Right.
And the thing is that I came back from Mexico at a trade show I was at. And I knew when I was there, I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing. Because I was just like, man, if you went through 20 years worth of misery and don't use what helped you to help other people, it seems like a waste of 20 years of your life. And so the thing is that I actually smoked DMT and I like received this guidance that I was supposed to quit my jobs and take a leap of faith. And we were supposed to like start this wellness center that was going to help people on their healing journeys and stuff. And so after getting this like divine message, and listen, I'm not promoting or saying it's okay to use things outside of clinics by saying this, but I went upstairs and our son was 6 months old at the time. And I'm like, so listen, I just got this message during this DMT trip.
This is what I'm doing.
And so I'm supposed to quit my jobs and we're going to take a leap of faith and we got to start this company because we're going to help people heal.
Wow.
And she was like, you're crazy. And she's like, our son is 6 months old. Like, we're not doing this. And I'm like, I know that it was God talking to me basically, right?
Wow.
Because I had like just got myself together. Like, listen, like I didn't have huge savings or anything and stuff like that. I had a Rolex that my mom had given me years ago, which was a really nice Rolex.
No, we had nothing.
We had a Rolex.
I know.
Yeah, we had
had any savings.
We had no savings. and Christina, so I sold my Rolex. Christina took out like a $40,000 loan and we rolled the dice, risked everything, took the leap of faith and started the company.
Wow.
And it's funny because like after we did that and took the leap of faith, Not saying it was easy, because it wasn't, but it was like God was there to catch us every time we needed something. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, it's you. I don't know how it was for you, but you almost have to. You almost force it to happen, because you put yourself in this must-win situation. I think it's incredible what you can do when you have to win. Right?
Goggins talks. Burn the boats. Burn the boats.
Yeah.
Listen, we were at dinner at her, parents' house one night, and her dad comes up to me, and he's like, "So listen," he's like, "if this doesn't work, what's your plan B?" And I'm like, no, man, no. I'm like, that's not how you manifest. I'm like, there is no plan B. I was like, this is either going to happen or I'm going to die trying to make it happen.
He had to come up with a plan B because he was in he lost his license for too many DUIs for a long time.
Oh.
Who, me?
You.
Yeah.
And the counselor was like, well, what's your plan B if this doesn't work? And he's like, I don't have a plan B. And he had to make up a plan B because he wasn't going to pass the class.
This was right when we were getting ready to take the leap of the faith to the company or whatever. And so she's like bringing me to this thing. And the guy was so mad at me. He was just like, no, you have to have a plan B. So I just made something up. But like, there was no plan B. And so like, we opened up and started, and then we did our first treatment a week before the lockdown. But we were an essential company, stayed positive, kept going. Everything ended up working itself out. And now fast forward 5 years later, we've done like 15,000 treatments from our facility.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah, man.
And to give kudos to you, for the listeners, it's way harder, I think, to do it when you have a family and people counting on you than when you're not. Because even though my situation was difficult, my mentor, he's like, Tanner, look, it's now or never, bro. Because he's like, if you find a girl and you're making $100,000 a year as an engineer, and then you tell her you want to start a business, she's going to say no. And he's like, and then you're probably not going to do it. So as you're older, although like, I don't know your exact situation, I think that's harder, because it's like, then you have other people in your ear and they're kind of like, oh, should you do this? Like when I was young, it was like, if it didn't work out, just go home to my parents' house. Like it wasn't
it's
as
really
big,
hard,
right? Yeah,
it's because we're both in it. It's not like I have a job and I'm bringing in outside income. Like if something goes wrong with the business,
so I want to give you kudos for that, because that's the biggest struggle for most people, is they won't take that step back, and it's harder as you get older because you have more responsibilities, you have more people counting. When I'm in my 20s, it's like, well, what's the worst that can happen, really?
In a way, it actually played in my favor, because it was more about losing the company. It was about losing them, because I knew that if I failed, I'd lose everything. You know what I'm saying?
No pressure.
Yeah, no. I work better under pressure, I guess you could say.
No pressure.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
No, man, but
Good for you.
so thank you. I appreciate it.
That's amazing.
Well, listen, man, like, I brought up, like psychedelics, and like we do the ketamine and stuff like that. I was wondering if you've ever had any profound psychedelic experiences, or if you've had any experiences with psychedelic medicine.
So like I was telling you off camera, I've done pretty much everything besides ketamine. Like I don't like, it's not like I planned that for the show. It probably would have made sense if I had done it, but I have done everything besides that. Ayahuasca, if I'm trying to like help people who maybe know what it feels like, if you've done mushrooms, ayahuasca felt like mushrooms to me. It's similar. What is it, Bufo or DMT? Yeah. So Bufo, I would say I felt, when I took it, I felt like it was my ayahuasca trip, but it was at the peak. So if you take ayahuasca, usually will last 4 to 6 hours. So I felt when I did Bufo, 0 to 10 seconds, it was like my ayahuasca trip at the peak. I thought that was interesting. The reason I did it at the time is I was just having a hard time, and I didn't really know what to do in terms of my relationships, like, well, specifically like romantic, so like with girls and stuff. And I just was really struggling. Like I didn't know what I should do, and so I was a little desperate, to be honest with you. And I'm not usually what you would. I usually was like anti, you could say, woo woo. So like anything like that, I usually be like, dude, I'm not doing that. That's like way too out there. But I was so desperate at the time that I did it, and the experiences I had were actually pretty positive. I think everyone's a little different. Like some people, when we were doing ayahuasca, for example, would say, like, I saw, visions, and then to me, it just gave me very profound thoughts. So meaning, like when I went there, I was contemplating the meaning of life. I was contemplating what I should do for the rest of my life. I was like, I'd have some thoughts I'd have, and I didn't know exactly what they meant. But overall, it was a very positive experience for me. I haven't done ketamine. I have close people to me who have done it. But yeah, so you can ask whatever you want, but I've done a few things, so I have a little bit of context. And usually when I'm asking people to tell me about something they've done that I haven't, I'm like, what is it similar to, so I can kind of understand like what it feels like, if that makes sense.
So I guess like the big question would be like you didn't have any like visionary moments or whatever on the medicines, but like, did you receive the answers you were looking for?
It's a great question. Maybe I'll try to describe it. It might sound really weird though. So I was really trying to figure out what to do with the significant other that I was with. Like I didn't know to move forward, break up, whatever. And the vision I had was or maybe the feeling I had, it was kind of interesting because I don't know. I guess to answer your question in short, I don't know if I got the answer. Like I had thoughts, but I then didn't know like, okay, what did I see? Does that mean like stay with them or not? So I guess I don't think I did, like, to be honest with you, but I still had a very positive experience, and I was hopeful that maybe after the event, what I saw would kind of come to light. It would make more sense. But I will say that was very interesting. The same things I thought in ayahuasca, when I did Bufo, the same exact thoughts came back, which gave me a lot of clarity and confirmation on, was I just seeing things or did I really think that? Because that's what came back. But I think the answers did become clear to me later, because as I went back out into the world with those new thoughts, I'm sure they affected my actions, and it kind of like helped me later on.
Sounds like you need some integration.
Yeah, that could be true. Like maybe I didn't do it right. Like I talked to one person and they said, "Oh, you just didn't take enough." Like they're like, it sounds to me like you didn't take enough ayahuasca. I was like, I don't know, man. I felt like I took enough, but that could be true too. But I would say I overall had positive experiences with both. Some people, I was very scared to do it because I feel, at least let's call it the mindset world, some people, they just get like way too crazy in my opinion. Meaning like, they're like, yeah, do this. And I'm like, I don't want your life though. So it kind of turns me away.
I like that.
Yeah, it kind of turns me away because I'm like, there's nothing about your life I want. But when I went to the retreat, and I saw more normal people and I was there for myself, it made me go, okay, that's probably the 20% crazies. And I'd say like the 80% that you don't see is probably these people. At least that was in my opinion.
Listen, like I just had this conversation with Christina the other day, and it's like it even goes back to like going to AA for me years ago, which I really don't do. I don't do anymore. But like they say, when you're finding a sponsor, look for somebody that is living the life you want to live,
right?
Basically. And it's like, I think that like for me, even like when it comes to like this psychedelic movement, Christina jokes with me sometimes, right? Because she'll be like, you don't have what is it? Like, you don't...
A gimmick.
Yeah. She's like, where's your gimmick? She's like, everybody else has a gimmick. Where's your gimmick? And I'm like, I don't want a gimmick. I'm like I'm not going to sit here and get up in my headdress or whatever. Like,
oh, right.
You know what I'm saying? Or it's like, I'm just me. And the thing is that like, I actually think that's really powerful. But like, when it comes to like working with people, because there's like people that I'm always working on leveling up in my life, which we all are, right? And like, I want to find the right people to work with to help guide me and do things properly and things like that or whatever. But it's like, it's been a rough road finding people that I actually want to live the way that they're living, not monetarily, because there's some uber successful people out there,
right? But
like, even just from like, just being comfortable in being themselves and not having to have that gimmick or something like that. And so like, why, like, what do you think about, like, I guess it'd be a good question is like, what do you look for when you're looking for people to help? Like, if you were looking for somebody to help you, what would you be looking for in somebody?
In what regard? Just like all regards?
No, I mean, like, you know how you're like, well, like, I wouldn't want, like, I don't want what they have kind of thing. What do you want?
Yeah. I mean, what I've noticed about myself is the number one thing I seem to respect across, like, we'll just say in this context, men, just because I obviously talk to more males than females, but they're unashamed to be who they are. So I have some friends who I completely disagree with what they're doing or how they live their life or their beliefs, etc. But they're so certain that the way they're living their life is correct. That has always been very like intriguing to me. Like I've always been pulled to people who they unashamedly live the way they're supposed to live. Outside of that, I always look for guys who, usually for me, like I like guys who excel in fitness. I like guys who excel in business. I like guys who excel in discipline. I like guys who excel in keeping their word. You know, I also like intellectual people. So I know it probably sounds like super crazy, but I feel like I surround myself with pretty high level people. So usually it's a high level person that probably most people would honestly say they'd want to be like. And for me, when I look at a lot of my close friends and what they do, the big thing that I just admire about them is they're super hardworking, they're super disciplined, and they're super convinced that the way they're living their life is correct. And that, I think, is what questions me to think, do they have it right? You know, am I wrong? And that I think is helpful for me, because whenever someone's living their life and they're not trying to put it on you, but they're just, this is how I do things, this is what I believe, this is what I want, etc. It makes me really question myself. And I think by questioning myself, it helps me understand myself more and like what I want out of life. So I don't know if I need to give you any examples, but that would probably be in a nutshell.
I align with what you said.
Okay, great.
I think it sounds fantastic, because like that's like for me, like somebody that's into their fitness, somebody that is comfortable in being themselves in their own skin, having that level of confidence, showing that level of discipline. I mean, it's like you just said, you surround yourself with all of these people. And, you know, there's that old saying or that quote where it's like, you know, surround yourself with 5 millionaires, you're going to be the 6th. Surround yourself with 5 people that are disciplined in the gym, that eat properly, that live by spiritual guidelines, that are men of their word, things like that. Like those are the things that mean the most to me as well.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, most of my friends who are successful, I would say, like from an outside perspective, most people would agree, but it's really the traits they have that I'm after. Like I'm trying to become a better person. So when I see someone who is excelling in different areas in life, usually I feel, okay, they got something I don't, or maybe it's something they're not doing that I am doing that I need to stop doing. And I've always open-minded. I've always been eager to learn. Like I think that's been a benefit to me, is no matter how much I learn, I never think I know everything. And I think what they say with psychologists or in science, that they just say the people who know the most know they know the least, and the people who know the least always think they know the most. And that's usually true, because like for me, I'm just a learner. Like I want to learn. I'm constantly like I get excited about different topics and how things work. And you know, some people, I think they are not doing that well in life, and they're not interested at all. They're not curious at all. I want to learn as much as I can. And the more you learn, the more you realize how much you don't know.
Heck yeah. Yeah, no, it's 100%. So go ahead, babe.
Have psychedelics helped you at all in your business, or growing your business, or bringing insight, or help you through a difficult time that, you know?
You know, that's a great question. I've never done them, I want to say, ever super consistently. Meaning, like, let's say do you take mushrooms every week, or I've never done anything like that. I think what was interesting though is just that you obviously feel very different, right? And I think what was interesting to me to see was how I felt in those situations when I would try mushrooms, or I would, I always would do these, like, you know, clinics or whatever, but for anyone listening, but ayahuasca and stuff like that. And it was interesting to see usually what's the word I'm looking for? How in touch with your emotions you get. It removes inhibition, right? And then what else? It just would get me to my most emotional state. And it would really, I think, make me think deeply and profoundly about, you know, what's important to me and the meaning of life and stuff. So, in terms of, I guess, like, yes, indirectly, in the sense of it helped me learn more about myself and question things about myself, which in turn, I think, helps me be a better person, which then would help me perform in business. I wouldn't say anything directly, but maybe indirectly. Yeah.
I like that. So, you know, the podcast is about, like, you know, psychedelics and stuff like that, but It's really just about like overall wellness and like leveling up and doing like all of the healthy lifestyle practices. I know from like, you know, from my experience, most people that are highly successful are creatures of habit.
Yeah.
And they are locked into some sort of, you know, methodical way of living that it pretty much repeats itself over and over on a daily basis. I would love to know what your days and like your morning habits and like those kind of things look like for you.
Sure, absolutely. So I'll usually wake up before the concussion, we'll say, because it's been a little rough after. But
When did that happen?
Yeah.
like they said what, January 10th, so about a little less than a month ago. Yeah.
What happened?
Oh, wow.
Oh, I was on a scooter and I was going across these train tracks 25 miles an hour, and then that's all I remember. And I woke up with I looked like I got in a fight. I had a massive swelling on my face, my eye. And I can't remember January 10th through 24th. Like, I have no recollection.
So this might, before we get into your habits really quickly, I just want to say this could actually be the perfect reason for you to actually
come
do
try
ketamine now, is because, believe it or not, ketamine's going in and doing neurological healing to the brain.
Yeah, like I honestly can't remember. And I asked the doctors, they're like, they don't know if it'll come back. They said I could have possibly died from the fall because I hit it so hard. But one of my friends said that to me, and I was like, I'm happy with how I live my life, man. So
Yeah.
like I think that's like there's something positive about that, because I think when you have near-death experiences, maybe you think about those things. I didn't realize how serious it was because I don't really remember it.
Yeah.
They showed me videos and pictures after, but all I remember them saying I did is I would order Uber Eats quite a bit. And I gained 15 pounds, which I'm still trying to get off. But yeah, so before that, and even after, like I've been pretty steady going back this week. I usually get up at 4:30 or 5. I go straight to the gym. I'm at the gym quite a while, and it's probably more than I need to be, but part of it is therapeutic for me. So I do 2 hours of lifting, I do 45 minutes of cardio. So that's why I'm there quite a while. As soon as that's done, I go home, I'll shower, and then I kind of start prepping for the day. So usually I'll do any work to prep for meetings or like whatever's the most important. Then we have our team meeting at 9:45, and then I just keep working. Usually I'll work till like, honestly, like 7 or 7:30. Like I don't need to eat per se, but like as of now, I still don't have kids. I like to work. I want to be productive. So there's always something to do, right? And so in business, there's always something to do. There's always something to work on. So I do that. And then lately I've been going to bed around 8, and then I will zonk out until like straight until 5:30. I mean, I won't even wake up. Usually I don't sleep that well. It's actually been interesting to see that having a concussion will make you sleep better, it seems. But then I just rinse and repeat that. And then whenever I need a break, usually for me, it's I'll go somewhere to eat, or I'll go to a, not a sauna, but I'll go to a spa, like a spa that has a sauna, has a cold plunge, does massages, stuff like that. And then, or I'll just look at Netflix, like a vegetable, and I'll go like this until I feel like I have more energy. And that's mostly what I do. And here and there'll be trips and stuff like that, but that's an average schedule for me. And it's worked well for me. And I like doing stuff. I like being busy. I like pushing. And just again, because I have a big business, there's always stuff to do. Could I take more time off? Sure. But I also have been on the other side of the boat where I took 6 months off from my business a few years ago. And I didn't realize it. That's actually when I did ayahuasca and stuff like that, but I didn't realize it till after. But I actually came back and I started working, and I didn't realize how miserable I had been. When I started working, I actually felt really good. I was like, wow, like I feel really good. But I think I had stopped working for so long because I had stepped out of my business for a bit that I didn't realize how bad I felt from not doing anything. So to me, being busy it's not like I need someone's approval, but I do think for most people, they like staying busy is a good thing. I think a lot of people will try to like downplay it or say it's a bad thing, and I don't really get that.
I agree with you. Listen, I love what I do. I'm sure you love what you do, and it's like, it's not like me going and sitting in a cubicle and, like doing something that's not really exciting for me or that I'm miserable doing. It's like, I love helping people. I love being of service. And so it's like when people are like, oh, you need to slow down for a minute and you need to take some time off. It's just like, but like, I love this, like this, I live for this stuff. I'm sure you probably feel the same way.
Yeah. There's no right or wrong way to live life. I won't mention his name, but I have a pretty well-known entrepreneur friend who, he gets a lot of, I would say, crap for how he lives. Cause he's we could probably even say on here, he's a little over the top. Like over the top meaning if I'm 90%, so let's say, 90% serious, he's 100%. I mean, he's like, he doesn't enjoy vacations. He doesn't enjoy like a lot of like stuff where I would say like, you don't enjoy it at all, like even for a day. But
Sounds like Charles.
Yeah. But the thing I do respect about him is he just says, look, there's no rules to life. And if I don't enjoy those things, like who's to say that I have to go do that? It's like, if I like to work and I want to work, what's wrong with that? And I respect that. And again, it goes back to the people I respect the most is the people who are very certain about the way they're living their life and they're just living it unashamedly. I respect that so much because to not care what anyone else says about your life, I think that's the ultimate place to be. And then it really makes me question my life. I start thinking, am I living that way? Like, is he right? Or I like that. I like when people's beliefs force me to question mine because someone telling you you're wrong or you should go to church or you should do whatever, like that does nothing but turn them off. But what really helps is when you're just really nice to someone and you're like, here's what I believe, here's what I do. And something about what you're doing and how you are as a person, they want more of that. And because they want more of that, they're like, man, what is it about this guy that I don't have? And that's kind of my point, at least with the people I respect.
One of the things that psychedelics taught me is that the box doesn't exist.
Yeah.
The proverbial box that we're supposed to fit in. And like, this is what life is supposed to look like. The way I look at it now is like, life is a movie and you're the main character of your own movie.
Yeah.
And so it's like, if you're not living the way that you would want to be the main character of your own movie.
Right.
And listen, and don't take that the wrong way. Like where it's like, of course you got family and stuff like that or whatever, but like the thing is like, I literally don't care what anybody else thinks about the way that I live because from the beginning of us doing this, every single person that we knew said we were going to fail. Like even like our families, everything.
That's unfortunate.
Like friends, families, all
it's normal.
that.
It's unfortunate, but it's normal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing is, it's like, but like, I was like, no, like, this is like this. I've been talking about this for 10 years before we took the leap of faith.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, this is all I talk about anyway. So it's like, and then, like my life didn't make sense to me. Right. It's like, I mean, 20 plus years of substance abuse issues and all kinds of mental health stuff going on with depression and anxiety and all of that stuff. And I was just like, if I do this and it works, and this really was like a divine message that I was receiving, and we actually do help people heal, then my entire life makes sense. Because it's like, I went to college and stuff like that. I dropped out right before I graduated. But the thing is like, I joke around now and I'm like, a lot of people go to a 4-year university and they figure out what they're going to do for the rest of their lives. I went to like 25 years of ruining my life in order to figure out how to heal through all of that. So then I can go back and be of service and help other people that are still struggling out there. And so like the first person that we treated at our clinic, it was a guy who was suicidal and we were friends with, and he had tried all like other psychedelics, all the pharma meds, psychiatry, therapy, and nothing ever worked for him. And it was the first treatment we ever did. And he walks out of the treatment room and he looks at everybody and he goes, oh my gosh, it worked. He goes, I don't want to hurt myself anymore. And I was just like, yes. I was like, we're going to heal the entire world, but like, and it's just continuously got better and better after that. But like, I had those, and I think that that's where a lot of people like struggle too. It's like, it was like, first of all, I had victim mentality for a lot of years. Like, God, why are you punishing me and stuff like that? But then I realized now I was perfect the whole time and I was actually being molded into the person I needed to be molded into so I could be of the highest level of service. But the thing is that I think a lot of people are like, what am I doing here? Like, what's my purpose? And so like, I guess like that kind of would like lead into a question that I could ask you is like, what, how, like you said, the guy helping you and like, and kind of pointing you into that direction, but, and like, I kind of got the answer already, but like, I guess what led you really like into that purpose? And if you kind of already did answer that, what would you give us? What would your suggestion or advice be to somebody that was looking for that in themselves?
Like what they should do with their life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I'm trying to, that's a great question. I don't think I knew what to do with my life at the beginning. I think my mentors gave me suggestions, and because I didn't have a better thing to do or better path, I was like, yeah, I mean, you should start a fitness business. So like, okay, like I don't know what else to do. But I think as I had more success, like things just appeared. Like I didn't even quote unquote write it down, but it was just, hey, like you've been really successful in fitness. Can you coach me on how to build a fitness business? Hey, you've been successful coaching these people. Can you coach me on like a different type of business? You've done that. Hey, can I be a portfolio company? And so like I've had more opportunities just show up. And like now, at least I would say my life's mission now is like, I just want to learn as much as I can. I think the reason for that is one of my good friends, he just constantly, he had something bad happen to him recently, and I was checking on him, and he responded and he sent me a picture of the galaxy with the Earth, and the Earth in that picture was this big, right? And his point was like, it's fine, bro. We're all going to die. Like, he's like, we're insignificant. His point was like, look at Earth, right? And I think for me, all I want to do is I want to do my best to become all I can be. And the only way to do that, something else he says is he's like, extraordinary lives, you have to do difficult things. Like, because anyone that you look up to, anyone you admire, why do we admire them? Because they've done something extraordinary. How did they do that? They did difficult things. If you have people who have an average life, they've done ordinary things. No one really aspires to have an ordinary life. So that's really my mission. And for people who are trying to figure out maybe what they need to do, I think the best thing is just to be curious. And then again, it's take advice from the people ahead of you. I think as you start having success, but knowing what you want to do becomes clear. Like I didn't want to start a fitness business, but I was broke. As I started the business, I started having success. I was like, okay, like I can help people with this. Okay, like here's ways to learn. Here's people I can meet. And then I think that just kind of naturally progressed to where I am now, where I own some portfolio companies and I do help a lot of people, and I have some high level friends. Like some of them are billionaires, and I know them on a personal level. So I think for most people, it's just keep it simple. Find someone who's living the way you want to be, pay them to teach you what you want to know and get you that first level of success. And then from there, stay curious. And I think the answer becomes obvious. That's at least for me. I don't know if it's that easy in practice, but for me, I'm just very hungry to learn, and I work really, really hard, and that seems to pay off. And I really just pay anyone who's like where I want to be. I try to be open to that, or pay them, or get to know them, or whatever. And over 6 years, I spent $3 million on coaching, consulting, courses, whatever you want to say. And so to me, it just kind of like leads one step in another. Like as I do that, as I continue to learn, more opportunities present themselves. I think sometimes even opportunities that you can't plan. I'm not against planning, but after a while, I think I stopped maybe planning. Like you have a 5-year plan or a 10-year plan. I think I stopped planning because if you look at my life from 6 years ago to now, I didn't plan any of this. I couldn't even have planned any of it. So it was just one step at a time, and then it kind of manifested itself, so to speak.
I like that. It's like our psychiatrist and medical director, Dr. Ferber.
Yeah.
He says, let go is the way, older gentleman. Right. And it's funny because I used to think, I've always respected him, but I used to think he was just spitting a lot of crazy stuff at me sometimes. And it's like every time that I think that I'm in control, God shows me real quickly that I'm not.
Yeah.
It's like I get it's like, oh, we're going this way, and I'm projecting it, and then it's like, and then everything takes a complete U-turn, and you go in a completely different direction, and the way that you thought you were going was actually leading you straight into the pit of fire, and it's like this divine redirection that happens. And so I get it, man. It's like, I guess I resonate with the pick something that you love and then just work really, really hard at it, and then just kind of let it happen.
Yeah, being curious, even putting psychedelics in this, I think being curious has helped me because, for example, let's just because we're talking about psychedelics, a lot of people usually have a very negative view on them, right? They'll be like, hey, don't do that. That's, it's dangerous, this and that. And I think I was blessed that I got in a very difficult situation where I was so desperate. I was the risk was, I was like, even if there's a risk, I don't care. That's kind of how I got into it. But what I've noticed is about being curious and even trying psychedelics and all that other stuff is it it gives you such a wider view than the average person. And so because I've tried these psychedelics and because I've read these books and because I met these people, I feel it gives you a better grasp on life in general. And I'm not really too scared to try too many things. Like I since we're all going to die, I just view it as like, well, like, you know, I'm going to die either way. So like if this speeds it up a little bit, like it's worth the risk. But I feel like a lot of people, they get, they're very closed-minded and they're not very open to other points of view. And so I'm not saying like you need to go do psychedelics. I think that's a very serious thing, but I am trying to say doing that in a way, I'm a little blessed because it's opened my eyes a little bit because I had kind of a negative view of that. And then I did it and I was like, oh, it wasn't like as bad as I thought. And so that makes me more open-minded and it's helped me to be willing to learn or look into other things that maybe on the surface I disagree with. So I just want to at least throw that out there. You know, I don't know.
No, that was a clip for sure.
Yeah.
I love that. That was beautiful.
That's something that's important to me. And I always try to be curious and not try to, I don't know. I think psychedelics in that sense did help me a lot because it did open my eyes and it gave me a different perspective. And it also made me feel something that I didn't, you know, it's like, it's a very powerful feeling. And to know that you can feel that way, I think as a human, you start to question certain things, right? They talk about consciousness and you start to question like, okay, like, is this how I really feel or do I feel like this? And, you know, stuff like that. And I think that's good to have like a healthy discussion, I guess, maybe with yourself on like what you should or shouldn't do.
I talk about it where I feel like psychedelics pull people off the hamster wheel of life. And it's like we're like running in this one direction, and it's like we think, and you know, it's usually like wherever we're running to, we're completely focused on it. It's like almost like the unobtainable carrot kind of syndrome that people have, where it's like I'm chasing this carrot, and I'm on this hamster wheel, and it's like we're always trying to get to that carrot. And then I tell people that taking psychedelics is kind of like you take them, and then it shows you that you've been running in place the whole time. You take a step off the hamster wheel and then there's a pile of carrots sitting next to you.
Yeah.
Realizing that all of these limited beliefs that we've had and all of these limitations that we put on ourselves are all just an illusion. We're really limitless beings. And that, like, for me, psychedelics showed me my link to like the divine, like how, like with talking about consciousness, how like we all are one consciousness and that separation is an illusion. And so like when I went to these places of oneness and realized that everything was connected, I'm like, well, if we're all it, I guess I can manifest anything that I want to, then can't I? As long as I stay positive, and not to sound too woo-woo, but the truth is like I practice this stuff very heavily in my life where it's like staying positive, utilizing the laws of attraction and being that magnet and putting out as much positive energy as I possibly can so it comes back to me, raising my vibration by treating myself like the extension of the divine that I truly am. Eating healthy, sauna, exercise, like eating all organic, non-GMO. I drink water out of glass bottles.
Yeah, that's actually
like,
really good.
100%. But it's just like, but like now it's like I went from being one of the most unhealthy people on the planet to flipping that into like, okay, I'm going to take all of that like obsessive compulsive behavior that was driving me in a negative or an unhealthy direction. I'm going to flip it and try to be one of the healthiest people on the planet, and then embody what I preach and be that light for other people that are still like, you know.
I like two things I think people could take from that is like, so the first thing about, like when you take psychedelics, at least like my ayahuasca trip, I had a very profound thought about, you know, what I should do for the rest of my life. And it was, should I be a monk or be a business owner? I didn't even go in there with that idea. So this might be something helpful for someone listening too, is like, what was interesting is I would have very profound thoughts about things. I was like, why am I thinking about that? But it would just pop in my head. And after I went through that whole thing, in my head, I came to the conclusion, I felt very sure. I said, you know, I need to have businesses because the businesses allow me to help other people and help my family versus be a monk, right? And that was a very profound thought I had. And then taking that into, gosh, you were just talking about your fitness. I was going to make a secondary point on that. Just forgot what the point was going to be. Shoot. Sounded great in my head. I just lost the thought.
I hate when that happens.
A second. Yeah.
Story of my life. I always have these fleeting thoughts.
Leveling up, raising the vibration.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. And then going, okay, yeah. So once I got very set on that decision, and then I've had a mentor, his name's Steve Hardison, and he's very big on, like, he's an actual mindset coach who's worked with very high level people. And he kind of talks about, he calls it a document, but some people call it manifestation. And like something that was very practical for any of the listeners who, you know, sometimes you might think, hey, it's a little woo. What helped me with like the psychedelics is I got these thoughts, these very powerful thoughts, and I became more confirmed in maybe my beliefs in those thoughts. And then what I did to kind of hold that is, because as humans, we have so many distractions, like what we listen to, what we watch, like what people around us are saying. And I think those thoughts, sometimes if they're bad thoughts, those can seep into our actions, and our actions become our life, right? That becomes our results. And so something that's been very helpful for me is, if anyone's listening, like let's say hypothetically, like you're struggling, take psychedelics, you get very confirmed on what you should do. I made a document that says exactly who I want to be. So it's like, hypothetically, let's say I am kind, I am, you know, I am patient, I am empathetic, et cetera, et cetera. And what I've noticed is by saying those things morning and night, it's really made a big difference in my life, because when I get in tough situations, those thoughts come to my head. And so I act differently, because if you have the thought, like I'm empathetic, I'm kind, like, and if someone says something like, hey, jackass, like the normal response, I think, for humans is they react. And I didn't realize that. I didn't realize how often humans were just reacting. We're just constantly reacting. And so if you think through who you want to be before, that'll change things. And sometimes, maybe in this case, like psychedelics, there's other ways to do it, obviously, too. But these modalities can help us become more sure of the direction we want to go. And then when you add that with, like, let's say a document, I found that to be very helpful for me and for some of my clients.
Heck yeah, man. With what you just said about, I was trying to decide whether I should be a monk or a business.
Yeah.
Listen, I love that, because like the thing is that, I don't know, like not that I feel like we can almost be a little bit of both, or not a little bit of both.
Yeah.
I think that we can become a businessman and then do really great things for the world, you know?
Sure.
And like, that's where it's like, a lot of people, even within the psychedelic community, it's like, oh, like, and we deal with this stuff all the time with some of the people we're working with. It's like money is evil and stuff like that. It's like, I don't believe that at all. I think you can be a conscious capitalist. And like, if you want to be a real philanthropist and actually make a tangible difference in this world, you're going to need a lot of money to do that. So it's like, I think that that's one thing that needs to, like, kind of it needs to shift with the narrative, is that you can be one of the most helpful, positive people in the world that's making a real difference if you're one of the most successful business people in the world. Yeah. And like, I think that for me is why but one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about being uber successful is because, like, I just want to help people. Yeah. And if I go climb a mountain and live in the Himalayas or whatever and stuff like that, like, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. So for context, why I thought that, I think a little bit of nihilism was seeping in, where I've had a lot of success. And, you know, I've talked about it before on a podcast, but I had, you know, I hit $1 million in a month. I had this party, had people over, and this guy was like, hey, why are you having a party? I was like, oh, I just hit $1 million in a month. And I just spent the last 18 months of my life, 12 to 18 hours a day, every day, to make this happen. And the guy was like, cool. And I'm like, I don't like, let me re-say it again. Like, I don't think you heard, like, I made the world is what I said. Like, so that was a little bit depressing to me. And so when I went into the ayahuasca trip, that thought came to my head. It's like, oh, why don't you just be a monk? And I went down that path during my journey. And when I came back, it was just like, yeah, but the problem is, like, that'll be good for you, but it won't be good for other people. Like, you're not going to have impact. And so going back to your point, I think you can help more people having a business. A lot of times people talk about business owners in a bad sense, or billionaires, and it's like, but they don't understand all the jobs that the business creates. And that's the part that kind of makes me laugh, is like, you don't understand it actually impacts a lot more people by doing something like that than just doing, like, and there's nothing wrong with being a monk, for example, but that really ultimately, I don't feel like you can have as much impact because you don't have as many resources. And ultimately, a lot of people need resources, right? They need food, they need shelter, they need this. So yeah, I agree with your point.
Christina and I have given over 100 people free treatments from our clinic.
Yeah, good for you guys.
But see, the thing is like, we couldn't have done that if we didn't have the clinic.
Yeah, of course, because you can't just be giving, like, it's not, the ketamine's not free. It's not like, oh yeah, it's a free treatment for you. It's like, we still pay. There's a cost for it, of course, 100%. Yeah. Good for you guys.
You got any questions you want to ask, sweetheart?
If someone was on the verge of their entrepreneurial journey and they're done, they're stuck, They want to give up. What would you say to that person? How would you inspire them to keep going?
You know, I don't know if this will be helpful or not, but for me, I just had a massive fear of judgment from other people. And I think that was the thing that kept me going. Was I just had a massive fear of judgment from other people, for good or worse. I don't think that's a great driver long term, but I just didn't want to be the person to look at them and say, "Oh, you were right. Oh, like, you know, I had to quit. It was too hard," and like give them the satisfaction of that. So for most people, it could be different for everyone, but I think like you have to have a little bit of that fire where you don't want to have to like let other people know that they were correct, I guess. I don't know if that's a driver for some people, but that's a driver for me. Even when I talk to my team and, you know, we're going over messaging or we're going over sales calls, I'm like, guys, like, don't you just want to like kick ass? Like you're going to spend an hour of your life. Like you're never going to get it back. So you might as well kick ass. And sometimes I just think, I don't know, maybe it's just me. Cause I think sometimes trying to get that into my team, I'll see someone and, you know, maybe they only make $4,000 a month or $3,000 a month. And so it's hard for me to expect maybe someone who makes $3,000 a month to have that level of maybe fire that I have. But I would say if someone's going to quit, like just know that like it won't last forever and you're going to have that regret and you're going to have to deal with like all the things people are going to say. And in the short term, I think that's great. I think it's super powerful. In the long run, like, should you really care what people say? No. But I think in the short term, that really gave me a lot of fire because every time I was like, oh, I'm going to quit. And I was like, oh, dude, I have to tell because my girlfriend broke up with me because of it. So I was like, oh, I have to tell my ex-girlfriend she's right. Got to tell my parents she's right. My brother would joke with me because I had two brothers. He'd say, how's business going? And he knew it was going well. It's like, F you, mother. You know, like in my head, I'm like, you suck. And so I just didn't want to have those conversations. And so those negative moments, I was like, I'm going to keep pushing. And when I finally, you know, luckily when I had success, it gave me that reinforcement. And I think a lot of people, they're looking for confidence first, but confidence usually comes from taking action, which gives you results, and then confidence comes. So that means in the beginning, you're going to have zero confidence, but you still have to take action and wait till you get results to get it, you know?
Yeah.
Everybody needs that villain. It's like, or not everybody does, but I think it's so important for even in my journey. It's like, you know, it's like Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. It's like the person in business that, you know, is doing better than you. And it's like, you really don't hate this person, but you're like, I'm going to whoop them. I'm going to do better and stuff like that. Or it's the family members and friends that told you are never going to make it. And you're like, I'm not going to let them be right. And it's like that driver. I use that same kind of stuff.
I think it's why billionaires' kids don't do as well, because there's no, like, how can you be driven to do better when nothing's been tough for you? I had friends growing up, because I was one of 7 kids. So I'd have friends in our neighborhood, 1 or 2 kids, or they'd be 1 or 3 kids. And they'd get brand new cars at 16. I was driving a minivan. My parents' minivan was all I could drive, or I couldn't drive at all, or I'd take the bus. And like, I think going through some of those things gave me the fire and fortitude to push past in those tough moments. Some of my other friends, their parents gave them everything. So every time things got tough, they'd fall back on their parents. And to be frank, I'm farther than them in life now. And I'm not saying that as like I'm better than them, but it's just, I don't think everything being easy is a benefit. Yeah. And so having kind of a villain, so to speak, like use the negative things in your life to your advantage. And if you don't have any negative things, I think that's why it's harder for those people to win, because they're going, my life's pretty good. Like, why do I want to go through like XYZ ABC thing and get to the other side? Like, for me, my life wasn't very good at all. It sucked. I was like, my life sucks. I want to get to this side. So yeah, to your guys' point, I think having like using the negative energy or dark energy or whatever you want to call it, like, I don't know how many people get out of that place if they don't have that. And if they're saying that and they're going, oh, you know, I'm having a tough time. It's like, yeah, if your life's been all cush, like that probably makes sense why you don't have any energy to do it. Because I do think having that negative energy or that dark energy in that moment was very powerful for me.
Heck yeah, man. Well, last question for you, because this has been an amazing show. Hey. But if you had one message for the world, what would it be, man?
You guys hit me with the tough questions.
The hot seat questions. That's where you're at.
Yeah. I really, you know, that was two weeks ago. This really hit me heavy, and I was really happy about it in a good way. You know, 2 weeks ago I had that scooter accident, right? And I almost died, or could have died, or whatever they say. I don't know. Like, I just hit my head hard enough that it looks like I got hit by Muhammad Ali. And when one of my friends was like, bro, like you could have died. And, I sat there for a second and I just remember feeling I would have been fine. Like I would have been happy with that. Like if I died right now, I'd be happy with how I lived my life. And so if I had one message for the world or for anyone, it's just live your life with no regrets. Like just go all out. And the thing for me is not that I'm perfect or that I haven't made mistakes or I haven't done, there's stuff that like I'm not proud of or whatever, but I've genuinely always done my best. And there's levels of best. And I learned this in sports because when I was trying to play Division I football, they had optional workouts. And some guys would show up, some guys wouldn't, et cetera. And they'd really push you. And I remember one of our workouts, we had to do 2.5 hours of lifting, and then we had to run 16 100 meters. And if you didn't finish, within a certain time frame, I think it was 12 seconds for running backs and receivers, 14 for linebackers, and then like 16 for linemen, we'd have to redo it. We had to keep doing it over and over. And there were times where I would just be like, dude, I cannot go another step, and I'd keep pushing. And that kind of reminded me of what Michael Jordan talked about in The Last Dance, is like, it's kind of what David Goggins talks about too, is just you have levels. And once you hit a level, you realize, shit, if I can hit that level and I didn't die, I can get to the next level. And so when I say doing your best, a lot of people say they did their best. It's bullshit. Like, your actual best. And that's something that I've really prided myself on. I've always tried to do. Like this week, I just got back out of concussion protocol. Like I had to catch up. I've worked 16 hours a day every day this week so far. Like we'll see what today ends up at. Like, that's crazy. Like, I'm on concussion pro. I can't even see straight half the time. You know what I mean? Like, I still kind of have blurry vision. And so I'm not saying that, so look at me, but that helps me not have regret. And I think that's the key, because when you look back at your life and you're on your deathbed, I don't think it really is going to matter what we accomplish. It's more so how hard did we try? So the guy who tries harder, who accomplishes less, will feel more fulfilled than the guy who accomplished more, who didn't try as hard.
That was awesome. Heck yeah, man.
You can always do more.
Yeah. That was savage. I loved it.
Cool.
Beautiful.
Appreciate you guys.
All right. You want to take us out?
Yeah. Thanks everybody for joining us today. Nobody's told you that they love you lately.
We do.